The fireworks festival has now finished, and we move ever closer to nationals for Haru and Chinasu. But with her actions within this chapter, could trouble be upon the horizon for our favourite basketball player? Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Delia, and today let's talk about chapter 37 of the Blue Box manga series. A beautiful chapter with stunning art style throughout. Plus, this chapter was a bit of an eye-opener for Chinasu's feelings in being presented. So let's start off by talking about Taiki. Now, seeing how after attending that college training session, it's boosted his desire to improve his game, this was fantastic. We see him running in the morning trying to gain more stamina. But the better thing is mentally. He's not given in to this idea about next national tournament being Haru and Yusa's one to win. He still wants to go to nationals as early as his second year. This I loved, as it means we are going to get a full year's worth of Taiki training and progressing, getting better, and of course his journey to nationals. Instead of just a whole year of Taiki just going through the motions, he's actually going to try. This, I think, is amazing. And hopefully it really does pay off in the long run when we see it unfold in the future chapters to come. So we also get a bit of a training montage with characters practicing for nationals. This was a nice little segment to include within the chapter, but I do wish we saw a little bit from Yusa, as we haven't seen the guy for a very long time. Now, that being said though, there was a couple of interesting things happening in the showcasings of Haru and Chinasu's segments. With Haru, it seems like he's outclassing everyone within his training sessions, so hopefully this doesn't become a weakness or a hindrance for him in the future. I don't want to see Haru blaming his clubmates for being bad at the sport or not as good as him, and then saying that because of that, he can't get any valuable experience at playing at a high level. That's why he loses. Haru, you're better than that, don't make excuses. However, more importantly, the panels of training from Chinasu, in where she missed her shot in a practice match, this showcases that her head wasn't in the game completely. Something is clearly bothering her, and that of course is the relationship between Taiki and Hina. This of course in turn is the reason as to why Chinasu was looking sad at the end of chapter 36. She feels like she was lied to because Taiki told her that he was going to the fireworks festival in a group with his friends, Hina, Kyo and Taiki. But Kyo, obviously being the mad lad and best friend character, figured out why Hina invited Taiki on her own and then bailed at the last second to give Hina that Taiki alone moment. This of course leads to Chinasu's misunderstanding. Plus, if you cast your mind back to chapter 3, Chinasu makes a mistake while playing basketball, again due to something on her mind relating to Taiki. That time it was when Taiki wanted to act like they didn't know each other while at school, so this could be the fact that Chinasu was confused, wondering why Taiki wanted it to be that way. So I do like the fact that we get some similarities from her mistake in this chapter 37 and her mistake in the previous chapter of chapter 3. Now then, moving along to the segment where Chinasu was asking Taiki about his relationship with Hina. I thought this was a rather conflicting part of the chapter, as on the one hand I loved the emotional vibes given off from Chinasu because she believed that she was lied to, and of course with Hina and Taiki dating each other, it makes Chinasu's feelings of her own kind of silly and hopeless in her own mind. But on the other hand, I didn't like the way she asked Taiki in this chapter. Asking Taiki while he was asleep was entirely the wrong decision. This of course creates an unconfirmed answer within her mind because the person she was asking couldn't respond because he couldn't hear you, he was asleep. This of course makes whatever Chinasu thought in her mind her own personal truth. Now of course granted, had she asked Taiki while Taiki was awake, the results might have still been the same. Who's to say that once asked, Taiki wouldn't act flustered and then try to explain and refute the fact that himself and Hina are dating, but still, upon hearing Taiki's explanation, Chanasu could choose not to believe him, because Taiki'd already lied to her once before. And moving along to that line where Chanasu states being lonely is heartbreaking, yes, it was heartbreaking to hear her say that, but she is somewhat responsible for her own feelings of loneliness, because she created a distance between herself and Taiki when she said it's weird to kind of get close to each other. She's also jumping to conclusions about a situation she really doesn't have all the information about, which again is a problem in its own right. I am hoping that Kyo learned of Chanasu's feelings and tries to help clear the situation up, because Kyo is aware of Taiki's feelings towards Chanasu and is somewhat at fault again here because he lied and bailed on the fireworks festival at very short notice, not giving Taiki any time to kind of explain to anyone about him being there with Hina alone. Now then, we're going to talk about that ending, because it was upsetting to see Chanasu leave for Nationals without a moment between herself and Taiki, as we've always had this supporting each other dynamic going on between the two characters. This has been since chapter 1. But here, when Chanasu has a chance to achieve her dream of going to Nationals, they're not supporting each other, which does make sense given the circumstances. Chanasu probably feels a bit awkward being around Taiki now that she believes that he's dating Hina, which of course is wrong, but this is how we get to this situation. Now, I do have to apologise because I made a mistake in my last review. I said that this could be Chanasu's last chance at Nationals and her last year at school. But that's not actually true, because she's got this year and the year after. So if she fails this time around, then she always has next year to try again to win at Nationals. This leads me to my next point. With all of these feelings and emotions swirling around within Chanasu's mind, I think she's going to bottle one of her shots during a Nationals match, which ultimately leads to them losing as a team. And this would lead to a great character arc for Chanasu, in where she has to overcome her feelings and express herself to Taiki in hopes of kind of shaking off whatever is bugging her and putting her off her game in time for Nationals next year. Otherwise, her team members might see her as a liability instead of a trump card. I wish that moving forward we do get a reappearance from those bands that were given to both Taiki and Chanasu in chapter 2. I want to see our main characters connect back together, and of course, if we're leading up to Nationals again the following year, then this is a good plot device to use for that time. So overall, I really enjoyed this chapter. It does showcase a lot from Chanasu in terms of her emotions and desires, and it does also keep Taiki's desires relevant as well. The art style again was super beautiful, and I hope we get a great display from Nationals. I hope we see a lot of amazing sporting action. I honestly wouldn't mind if we just have a few chapters that are dedicated to just showcasing the matches themselves, instead of having a lot of dialogue and a lot of sort of character interactions. Anyways though, I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, hit that like button, comment your thoughts on this chapter down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And of course, subscribe for more Blue Box content from myself. Have a great day. Alligator, Martinet. Goodbye.